Smile, be, chat, join for networking.
So my foresight's entitled, You Don't Make Parachutes. So the first thing to get out of the way is, does anybody here actually make parachutes? Because if you do, there's coffee and Danish out there, because you'll just ruin the whole thing for me. No? Right, cool, we're fine, awesome. The next thing is, does everybody's hands and arms work? Because there's a little bit of audience participation, so I just need you to raise your arm for me, just so I know that you're not asleep and you've not nosed off. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to talk about parachutes in a second, but before I do that, I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about panic. So, when you say panic, what you think about is season 4 of The Walking Dead, when all the zombies are running towards them and they're like hiding at the top of a fence and they're panicked. That's not real panic. That's like TV panic. And then there's the other kind of panic you get as well, and the other kind of panic is induced panic. So that's going to a fairground, yeah, and going on the Big Dipper or the droppy thing that made me poo myself almost. That's induced panic, and you put yourself in that situation. And you put yourself in that situation because adrenaline is a really cool thing to have, and it makes all your senses heightened and stuff like that. So those are two types of panic, and I'm not going to talk about them because the first one isn't real, and the second one we do on purpose. In fact, we pay a bloody fortune for it. But the third type of panic is free, but it's not necessarily a very good type of panic. It's the panic that we get every single day, most of us do. And we probably don't recognise it, so I'm going to go through what it is. And this is where the hands go up. If you recognise what I'm saying, stick your hands up. Let me know. You don't need to keep them up. It's not school, right? You just need to, just for a wee second, just so I know that you guys get where I'm coming from. I'm going to tell you about how panic feels for me. And then if you recognise that, then we'll go. So, panic for me generally starts with the hairs on the back of my arm standing up. Right? Nobody get that? Or on the back of my neck, the hairs on the back of my neck start to go a little bit. Then I start to feel a little bit of warmth in the back of my neck. Like somebody's like, you put a heater on behind me. Ring any bells? And then that kind of goes round, and it goes round to my ears. Right? Now, obviously my ears are quite a focal point of mine, right? So it looks like I have two massive strawberries on the side of my head. And then that works its way round down there, and then the next thing I have these big massive red cheeks. Ring any bells with anyone? Yeah? Okay, so the thing that comes next is the throbbing of the temples. That mean I'm sitting there going, right, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? What am I going to do? And then the stomach feels like you've dropped 3 floors in a lift. Yeah? Now, it doesn't all necessarily happen in that order, and it doesn't necessarily happen like 3 or 5 seconds apart. It all kind of happens at the same time. I've got a nickname that my father-in-law gave me a couple of years ago, and I can actually say it on camera, this one. The nickname that my father-in-law gave me is Mr. Roundabout. And the reason they call me Mr. Roundabout is really, really straightforward and simple. It is, hairs on my arms, hairs on the back of my neck, bit of warmth, strawberry ears, big red face, drop tummy, and then this. Oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And literally, I could do this for 20 minutes. Right, walking around in circles. Right, trying to work out, anybody else do that? Does anybody else have that? I'm really nervous, and I've got this involuntary movement. Brad was talking about walking with purpose. This is the opposite of working with purpose. What you're doing is you're burning off energy, you're burning off adrenaline. So it's an adrenal response. So I'm not a scientist, I'm not a mentor, I'm not a coach, I'm a guy that runs a business. And I've kind of learned a little bit about this because I needed to learn about it because I'm 41, I'm a little bit overweight, and if I didn't, I would have had a heart attack or a stroke or something by now. So the way adrenaline works is that it rushes into the blood and it gives you energy, it gives you... You know how when you read these newspaper stories about the people that, you know, they were in a car crash and their wife was trapped and they ripped the door off the car with their bare hands, right, and dragged them out and carried them, right? That's what adrenaline does. Adrenaline is really good for short bursts of energy. It's really good for getting you out of the situation you're in. And it's called a flight or fright response for a reason. It either gives you the energy to run away or it gives you the energy to fight for what you believe in. And that's or what you need to do to get out of that situation. And it's awesome for that. It's a great thing for that. What it's not incredibly good about is giving you what you need to make long-term effective decisions. It's the worst thing for that. Who's made a panicked decision? Okay, keep your hands up. Who's made a good panicked decision? Who, 30 seconds after they made that panicked decision, thought, oh no. and then spent the next minute, hour, day, week, month trying to fix that decision that they made in a panic. I'm going to put my hand up for all of that. I'm going to leave my hand up for that because I used to be the worst for it. Literally, my nickname was Mr. Roundabout because that was all I ever did. Anytime my father-in-law looked to me, every single little problem that happened was a panic situation. And the reason for that is it works. So we're designed to find things that work, processes, and use them. Eating stops us feeling hungry, so we eat. Drinking stops us feeling thirsty, so we drink. Sleeping stops us feeling tired, so we sleep. If you have a problem and you don't know how to solve it and the ATM aren't available, then you panic because you come up with this amazing solution. Right? It's not an amazing solution, it's an instant solution. So, where does parachutes fit with this? If you make parachutes, you're in one of the very few jobs in the world where every single time someone needs to use your product, it's a life and death situation. Do you think anyone's ever opened a parachute for giggles? Right? No. They've opened it because they're falling from a plane, and if they don't open it and it doesn't work, they're going to die. And the whole point is that if you make a mistake when you make a parachute, then it is a life and death situation. If you do what I do, or what you do, well, actually, you do magic, so it might be a life and death situation, like elephant falling from the sky or something, right? But what most people do is not a life and death situation. So we treat what we do like a life and death situation, and that's where the panic comes from. So parachutes are separate to pretty much what everybody else does. About 2 and a bit years ago, I was in full 10 times a day panic mode. Oh my God, there's no butter. What am I going to do? There's no butter. Sainsbury's can't deliver till tomorrow. Oh my God. And that's kind of where I was, loads and loads of times a day. I was not doing very well. Everything was a problem. I had a heart rate that would have stunned a horse. And I was in work one day and we got a phone call. I'm going to tell you a specific story about parachutes. By the way, I don't make parachutes. And you don't make parachutes. You told me that at the beginning. About 2 and a bit years ago, I'm standing in the office and I get a phone call. And it's from somebody who I'd wanted to be a customer for ages. Big charity. And they phoned me up and they went, "Hi, I know you've spoken to us a few times. We need some help. We've been let down by a supplier and we've got an event and we need you to do some merchandise for it." Awesome, fantastic, big charity client, I'm all over that. But we need it in 2 days' time. Bollocks. Yeah, okay, and instant reaction, yeah, I can do that because they're a big client and I really want it and I've been chasing them for 2 years. Who would say no, right? So we went through it, and it was some T-shirts for a charity event, and they were going to be white T-shirts. We were going to do a full colour print on it. It was going to be awesome. It was going to look amazing. I was going to be the hero of the hour. I was going to save them from the person that let them down. I was going to get all their future business, and it was going to be spectacular. I was going to be driving a Porsche and living in a mansion, and fabulous. So I take the order the stuff in from my supplier, and then go home, have a great evening about what a hero I am, and how I've got this amazing big client. Next morning, box arrives, open the box, and the T-shirts are black. I ordered them right, my supplier sent them wrong. Guess what happened? Did I calmly sit down and evaluate my options? No, I didn't. What I did was, I felt the hair starting to go on my arms. I felt my ears turning into massive big strawberries on the side of my head. And something else that happened was, as my face began to get red, and as I began to turn into Mr. Roundabout and walk round in circles, I saw an exclusion zone form around me in the office. Genuinely, you could literally see members of staff walking backwards and hugging walls. And the reason is that the bit that I didn't realise was that that's an infectious thing. That panic that I have when I get like that is viral. And it affects me and a space around me and the people within that space. So instant decision. What am I going to do? I'm going to phone them up. I'm going to say, I'm really sorry, I can't do it. That decision would have been not a good one because instead of the guy here 2 days ago letting them down and being the worst person in the world, me being the hero with the Lamborghini and the mansion, I was going to be the person standing here, not letting them down with 2 days to go, but letting them down with 1 day to go and the bad guy. So just as I was about to make my phone call, the one that was going to devastate me, something that my wife Carla, and some of you guys might know Carla, she's quite a wise person, said, popped into the back of my head. And it was simply, you don't make parachutes, Now, it did something really important. What it did was it made me smile. Really briefly, half a second, less than that. It just took my mind off of the panic mode. It stopped me pacing around in circles. It took a little bit of the red out my cheeks. And it made me just think, okay, hang on, I don't make parachutes. What can we do? So I phoned up my customer. Well, actually, I had to think about it for about 30 or 40 seconds. So when you make parachutes, you don't have 40 seconds. If something goes wrong, you've got about 5.5. When you do what I do, then I've got 40 seconds, I've got 20 minutes, I've got an hour to come up with a solution. And that's what I did. Phoned the customer, came up with a solution, and the solution worked for the customer. It wasn't exactly what they wanted in the first place. I didn't get my Lamborghini, didn't get my mansion, but that's okay because they get something they could use, and I got to be the person who saved the day for that customer. If I'd have gone with my panic decision, then I wouldn't have been, I would have been the baddie. All because of the thought that I don't make parachutes. It's not about not making parachutes, it's about not panicking, or about understanding that when you're in that panic mode, when you're ready to fight or fly, then that's not the best time to make that decision. Take the 30 seconds, sit down, take a breath. Say to yourself, I don't make parachutes, I promise it works. Not only has it changed my business, it's actually changed my life. And I have a resting heart rate of about 64. I don't panic particularly often. And when I do, something does go wrong, I remind myself that taking 30 seconds or a minute or a couple of minutes just to come up with a couple of options makes things go better. The phrase "we don't make parachutes" actually has another purpose in my business now. I've got it on the wall behind me in a big graphic. The reason being is that when you appreciate that no one's going to die when you make a mistake, what it does is it makes it easier for you to admit that you've made a mistake, that something's gone wrong, that something hasn't gone exactly how it should have. So one of the first things I say to team members when they come in induction is, we don't make parachutes. What that means is that if something goes wrong, if you make a mistake, if there's a problem, if you need help, come and ask, talk about it. Talk to your team members, talk to me, talk to Carla, talk to someone. Find out how to fix the problem, rather than assuming that the world's going to end because you printed something wrong or you made a mistake. It's actually a really big part of our training for our team now, that if something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. Simply put, no one's going to die. And once you realise that what's more important is coming up with the correct solution rather than panicking about the problem. And that's why it changed not only my business, but my life. Because I've gone from being a really panicky person that spends 10 times a day walking around in circles to someone who can sit and evaluate and solve problems. Doesn't stop my father-in-law calling me Mr. Roundabout. I think I'm stuck with that one for the rest of my life. But it does mean that I'm probably going to be called it for a bit longer than I was going to be had I not made that change. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you've taken something away. And remember, you don't make parachutes. Thanks.
Smile, be